Greetings! This is Vincent Brocoy from the second group, and we are here to report about the local and global communication in the multicultural setting.
According to Parapac 1995, our world is a world of diversity. But first, what is diversity? Diversity refers to the differences that describes the composition of a group of two or more people, like their race, their culture, tradition, and beliefs. Also, according to Maffei et al. 2003, that humans are born out of diversity as diversity increases our chances of survival. Therefore, linguistic diversity is inseparable to the cultural diversity. And that is why language is always connected to the culture. Okay, let's say when you have the same culture, then you also have the same language. Because through language or through communication, you'll be able to understand their culture. Because communication is the process of sharing information. And this linguistic and cultural diversity of a certain people or a group of people creates a unique identity. For example, the adobo. Adobo is well known in many countries, and they know that it came from the Philippines. That makes the food culture of the Philippines known worldwide. It serves as the identity that it came from the Philippines. So next is the types of diversity. Here I have some of the types of diversity, but because diversity is a broad topic, it has lots of types when you search it on the internet. So I took only 6 of them. First is cultural diversity.
Cultural diversity, the existence of a variety of cultural or ethnic groups within a society.
Example is Philippines. We have different cultures because of the influence of other countries. We have the American culture, Spanish culture, and some of the Asian cultures. Next is linguistic diversity.
Linguistic diversity. This diversity covers varied types of traits, including language family, grammar, and vocabulary. Linguistic diversity is sometimes a specific measure of the density of language or concentration of unique languages together.
According to www.viewsoftheworlds.net, there are approximately 7,000 languages spoken around the world, and around 1.5 billion people uses the three large language groups, which is the Mandarin Chinese, Spanish, and English. Next type is racial diversity.
Racial diversity is the differences between individuals depending on its origin, and sometimes they are being classified by their skin color.
Examples are the black and white Americans, the Africans, the Mexicans, and the Asians. Next type is the age diversity.
Age diversity is the acceptance of all ages in the work environment. This is affecting more companies due to the aging population.
Nowadays, young people may have the recent knowledge about on how to use the modern technologies. But for the other people, the older people, they may not have the knowledge to use the modern technologies, but they have this large and irreplaceable experience about life and the moments they had when they grow up that most of the young persons nowadays won't be able to experience anymore. Next is the sex and gender diversity. It refers to all diversities of sex characteristics, sexual orientations, and gender identities. Best example is the LGBT.
Next is the benefits of diversity to global community.
Diversities brings new ideas and experiences, and people can learn from each other. Bringing in different ideas and perspective leads to better problem solving. Working in diverse teams opens dialogue and promotes creativity because they interact and share knowledge from each other's culture and traditions to create and develop new innovations. So in simpler words, for me, world diversity is one of the reasons why globalization exists. That's all, ma'am.
The global community. Global community are the nations of the world, along with its people, that is known to be interconnected by modern technology and as being economically, socially, and politically dependent. So, global community represents the interactions among individuals globally. It is the fact that via internet or using modern technologies, still we can be connected to other people globally. Just like, for example, the social media and global media services. The worldwide spread of technology creates a vast connection that creates new opportunities on a large scales. The current focus of globalization of technology is the connection created by networks of these social media and global media services. This too is a brilliant tool that can be easily used by those who have access to it. So since we are living in this modern world, we are all can access social media and global media services. We are all aware what's happening globally because of these modern technologies.
Cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity. So, what is cultural awareness? According to Kwape and Candatore in 2005, cultural awareness is the foundation of communication. It involves the ability of standing back from ourselves and becoming aware of our cultural values, beliefs, and perspectives and perceptions. It is knowing that there are multiple different cultures based on religion, ethnicity, nationality that have different beliefs, outlooks, and perspective. It means that in order to have cultural awareness, we should first have the knowledge that there are other cultures around there, not just in our country, but also around the world. Next is, what is cultural sensitivity? According to Sherman in 2018, cultural sensitivities occurs when a person accepts the differences between their cultures without insisting or implying that their culture is better or others should do it. The ubiquitous use of cultural sensitivity has given it new and different meanings, but is better defined in the healthcare industry, according to Ferranda in 2008, that in order to be culturally sensitive, one must have the knowledge, respect, understanding, and consideration of another's culture. So, in order to have sensitivity, obviously we should first be aware that there are other cultures around us, and then to gain cultural sensitivity, we should try to understand and give consideration to other cultures while having an open mind into accepting them. There are 4 degrees of cultural awareness according to Kwape and Cantatori. These are: my way is the only way, I know their way, but my way is better, and my way and their way, as well as our way. So, my way is the only way. It is considered as the first level of cultural awareness. These people are aware of how they do things and that their way is the only way. At this stage, people ignore all other concepts as well as the impacts of cultural differences. I know their way, but my way is better. It is the second level of cultural awareness. People realize that there are other cultures, that there are other ways to do things, but they still consider theirs to be the best or to be better than other cultures. It is in this stage that people perceive cultural differences but see them as a problem, so they try to uh, lower its value, lower the significance, and ignore them. It is different from the first level of awareness in that the second level is aware that there are other cultures, whereas the first one is that they only care about their way, while the second one is that they know that there are other ways of doing things, but they still think that their way of doing things or their culture is better than others. My way and their way. It is the third stage of cultural awareness. These people are aware of cultural differences and choose the method, the way of doing things according to the situation. At this stage, people know that there are flaws and problems and as well as benefits in um, the use of cultural diversity to create new problems and alternatives. It is different from the second level in that the third level actually uses other cultures in trying to solve problems and create alternatives. So the last and not the least is our way. It is the fourth and final level of cultural awareness. This brings people to come together from different culture to create new meanings for the creation of a new culture that has shared laws, new meanings, and new ways of doing things. In this stage, people talk repeatedly without discrimination to create new meanings, like I said, and the rules to meet the needs of a particular situation. Um, in this level of cultural awareness, um, people try to incorporate other cultures into their culture in order to come up with the best possible solution for problems. I think this is the best way of cultural awareness. It is the highest cultural awareness level of cultural awareness, and that everybody should strive to achieve it, so that because we can all work together to solve new problems in this one world that we have. And I think it is really special. So what are the things to keep in mind to be culturally aware and sensitive? First, we should realize that cultural differences are a good thing and it should be shared and celebrated. We have come from a very long past, and all of these years of traditions should never be forgotten, should never be taken lightly, and it should be cherished. So we should know our own cultural, ethnic, and racial identity, since the ability to understand others comes from your ability to understand yourself. It is true because if we don't understand ourselves, how can we even understand each other or others? It is similar to the saying, in order to love another, we should first love ourselves. Because if we cannot learn how to love ourselves, how can we be sure that we will love the others? The third one is don't generalize and avoid stereotypes. Stereotypes are generally bad, and generalizing is really bad because every person is unique, every person is different. Even if people are from the same racial, ethnic, or nationality, uh, people, if you pick two people and compare them, they will always be miles apart from each other, since they might have different upbringings in life, or they might have lived in different situations where they are forced to have this kind of personality that they have right now. So the fourth one is be aware of your own discomfort when encountering racial, color, religion, or gender orientation, language, and ethnicity. So this is similar to the first one, where we should know ourselves first. To the second one, I mean, where we should know ourselves first before trying to understand other cultures. Because uh, if we are not aware of our own discomfort, we will not have an approach when we have come to face in that certain situation. But when we are aware, we will know what to do or what to say so that we will not be offensive to the other person. For example, is when you're a Muslim and your Christian or Catholic friends are eating pork in front of you. To you, you might be disgusted because it is in your culture that pork is disgusting. So you might be grossed out when you are with your Christian friends. So you might find yourself with it. You might find something within yourself that, in order to cope with that situation, you will try different things so that you will not offend your friends. Uh, Next is take advantage of different cultures in order to solve problems and come up with different ideas. Uh, Culture in the world is very vast. It is not there are many countries in the world that has a wide variety of culture from music, art, food, science, and everything else. And I think if everybody in the world has come together to try to create a new and better place, I think it will be a very big step for humanity. Next and last but not the least is understand that there will be bias and judgment, as well as that you will not be seen as someone who is unbiased or an ally. So this is true, but it depends on the situation, where if you grew up with someone from a different culture, then you know that person very well, so there might be less bias or no bias at all. But when encountering people from different cultures, bias tends to happen because you are seen as an outsider who probably doesn't understand their own culture. So when trying to uh, encounter people from different culture, we should know that, and we should know and we should understand that there will always be bias. We will always be biased towards our fellow Filipino people, that rather than Americans, because we share the same nationality as them. We share the same culture. We talk the same language. That is it for cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity. Next up is gender sensitivity.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kurja Maiko, and I'm the one who will discuss gender sensitivity. But before we delve deeper into gender sensitivity and the issues that surround this topic, we know first what gender is. I know most of you already know what is gender. Gender refers to the socially constructed rules and behaviors, activities, and attributes that a given society considers appropriate for men and women. It is different from sex because sex refers to the biological and sociological characteristics that define men and women. It is permanent and universal, while gender varies from one society to another. In other words, male and female are sex categories, while masculine and feminine are gender categories. So, what is gender sensitivity? According to Briones Vazmidiano et al. 2012, it is defined as the extent to which a person would reduce the risk of any gender related inequalities. The term is attributed with the goal of understanding gender and gender sensitivity while considering factors regarding society and culture. It aims to diminish exclusion and discrimination publicly and privately. So it means that it is the act of being sensitive to the ways people think about gender. Tries to ensure that people rely less on assumptions about traditional and outdated views on the roles of male and female. A person can use gender sensitive language or language that disregards the former binary gender system and use a new system that takes advantage of gender neutral terms. So language really matters in gender sensitivity because it often gets expressed through people's language choice. We can choose more inclusive language and use words that are gentle neutral, like for this example, ancestors instead of forefathers, artificial or manufactured instead of man-made, postal worker instead of mailman or postman, flight attendant instead of stewardess, police officer instead of policeman, and solidarity instead of brotherhood. There are a lot of issues that surround gender sensitivity, and there will be generalizations and stereotyping. Generalizations are the patterns of communication used by most people. So it means that we can generalize people based on the characteristics of the population of the culture group. For instance, we can generalize men as a hardworking. So if we can apply this generalization to each individual that belongs to a certain group of culture, then that is stereotyping already, right? You are not trying to conclude every man as what is and what is not. You generalize men as the hardworking. Jose is a man. Therefore, Jose is a hardworking person. Now, what if Jose is not really hardworking? What if he really doesn't like to work? What if he is a lazy person? That is not true to him. But you are trying to conclude Jose into being hardworking because of that generalization among men. That is stereotyping already, right? Stereotypes are cultural norms applied to everyone in a group in a rigid manner. This means that it is an assumption that people make about the characteristics of all members of a group based on an image which it is oftenly wrong, right? You are now generalizing hastily. Example of this is a women are weaker than men, which is generally accepted in physical aspect, because many scientists and studies prove that. And we can relate this example on our situation in BSMR engineering and transportation. Mostly men are taking this program or car or course because the job of a seafarer requires heavy tasks and women can't pull themselves in this job. The stereotyping women can't do anything simply because women is weaker than men and they're only inferior to men. In fact, there are certain women that could actually pull themselves together. I want to share this photos to you. Actually, this is a shared post from my friend in Facebook. It is an organization called Renaissance Youth Leaders Forum. So, as you see, this organization fights toxic masculinity, which stigmatizes and limits the emotions of boys and men, which hinders them to comfortably express their emotions. The organization helps men or even women unmute their voices with the hashtag unmute, a digital campaign against toxic masculinity. We should be considerate with other people's feelings, use good language of choice, because we are diverse and different way. Thank you.
So let's move on to the political correctness. According to Britannica, political correctness is the term used to refer language that seems intended to give the least amount of offense, especially when describing groups identified by external markers such as race, gender, cultural, or sexual orientation. An article by Bill Lind claims that political correctness is cultural Marxism, further referring to the term as the conversion of Marxism from economic to cultural terms. He gives evidence dating back from the 1960s where there was a push for political correctness from the hippies and peace movement, then concluding the parallels between political correctness and classical Marxism are very obvious. So, political correctness is a term used to describe something that is intended to avoid offense or not to hurt someone. Something that changing the open or correcting the offensive word to the word that is not too painful to be heard. So, as you can see to the screen, we have here the examples of politically correct terms, such as instead of saying cheating, we should say academic dishonesty. Instead of saying ugly, aesthetically challenged, and so on. If you have any question or clarification, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
That is all from our report, and thank you so much for listening.